start. We're going to start in 1 minute. Presented by Viesturs. First competitor will be Marcus Wyatt from Great Britain. Third place in the second race of Sigulda. So maybe he's a candidate for the podium also here in Winterberg. Kann der auch in Winterberg Richtung Podium fahren? Marcus Wyatt aus Großbritannien eröffnet den Winter hier. Der erste Starter. Marcus Wyatt, track the slip.
The Skeleton World Cup gets underway in Winterberg, Germany, with Marcus Wyatt of Great Britain. 8th place in last year's race here, which was almost exactly 12 months ago. It'll run up the zero curve. They'll be sliding every 3 sleds, so Marcus gets fresh ice. 7th in last year's Europeans, which were in February in Sigulda, the final race of last season's regular World Cup campaign. Marcus's 23rd World Cup start. Ooh, little bit of a hit. Down into the Veltins Kreisel, normally packed with fans, Glühwein stands and umpire bands. None of that this weekend, of course. Still racing very much behind closed doors. All the teams in their own little bubble. Latvia's bobsleigh team is not here this week because they have had a positive test or 2. 126.3, that's pretty decent speed for Marcus Wyatt. Little hit on the wall at the edge of the final corner. So that gives us an idea of what we should be looking at. A 57.21 off a 4.87 start. Start record is 4.75, so we're away from that at the moment. And probably will be in these slightly snowy conditions. 57.21, don't expect track records today. That's 1.7 seconds off the track record. A little high and late there, and the crossover hits the build-up of ice there. Nice view right through the middle of the marks there. And Happy New Year to Marcus as well. Next up, Mihai Pacquiao, whose dad is the coach of Romania's bobsleigh team. He also occasionally competes with them. 21-year-old, World Cup best for him, 17th in race 2 in Sigulda. Now, he did the 2 Sigulda races. His teammate did the 2 races in Innsbruck. And Mihai is back for his 9th World Cup start. Raced here in January last year. He finished 28th in the field. And actually, that was enough to be 14th in the European. He was 14th in the European Championships in Sigulda. It's a 25-strong field, so even if he is last, he will have a PB here in Winterberg. He's looking to improve a little on that if he can. And with a few sliders in the field who are pretty new to this track, he might have the chance. Second best speed, he's 7/10 behind Marcus Wyatt. As with all the athletes, Mihai's real battle is with the track and with himself. Head right down, trusting the line here as he gets down through the lower labyrinth, these quick S's, and then into the final corner, low line, late pressure, and again comes back down, hits the wall. 58.05, 84 hundredths back. Well, the first battle for a number of our sliders, and Mihai is definitely among them, will be to make the top 20 and get a second run. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. Starting off 5.11 leaves him quarter of a second back from the start. And then you can see as he comes out of the grooves, the sled is still moving sideways, has to take a big steer. Look at the whole body arched around. He's leading it with his shoulders, dragging the left toe to try and bring the nose of the sled round.
Forward, so we're looking forward to the next starter, to Meyer from Austria.
Drops down a little there. Didn't have the line right coming in. I need to think about, is that a top 20 run? We will wait and see. Next up for Austria, 21-year-old Sammy Meyer, 7th and 6th in Innsbruck. Last couple of races before Christmas, his World Cup bests. 6th of the Youth Olympic Games in Lillehammer in 2016. Of course, brother Benny and his sister-in-law Elizabeth will be sliding this weekend. Elizabeth comes up in the women's skeleton race this afternoon. 5:16. Okay, it's not a great start for Sammy Meyer. Finished 29th behind Mihai Pacquiao in last year's race here. It is now last year, January 2020. Was correcting myself all through the first part of the season, but it is now last year. 10th in last year's European Championships in Sigulda. He's only right behind Marcus Wyatt, but he is now pulling back against the Brit, and that's after Wyatt made that mistake early on in the run. That's where he lost the speed, so Sammy Meyer moving ahead. Great bullet form. This is quite a good track for the gliders. Good exit off corner 4. And he has the lead of the race. And that is 35 hundredths ahead of Marcus Wyatt. That shows how much time the British slider lost with that crossover error that we saw before the Kreisel. Yeah, Sammy Meyer trying to build on that pace that he unleashed in Innsbruck. Just a little bump before the take-on. It's not a bad-looking run at all. No dramas with snow in the track at the moment. It's not falling off the roof. It's not blowing in. Very little in the way of breeze. Welcome back on the finish stop, by the way, to Debbie Ego, who rejoins the IBSF TV crew for this race weekend. Long-time member of the crew. She's our floor manager there. Next up, Thomas Ducours. Around, I think we'll say, his 131st World Cup start. Now 39 years old, the older of the two Ducours brothers. 5:01 getaway and still super fast. 30 World Cup podiums and 1 win. Joint European champion back in 2016 with brother Martins. Winterberg race last year, only finished in 10th position. 2400s up on Sammy Meyer. He was the silver medalist in the Europeans in Sigulda last year. The brothers had a 1-2 in the European Championships. This is a great looking run from Thomas Ducours. The first 3 sleds in the draw are from outside the top 10 in the World Cup rankings. Now we get into our 10 best athletes of the season. And again, a good exit out of the final corner. 1900s ahead of Sammy Meyer. That might not be enough to be in the top 3 or 4 at the end of the first heat. We're going to have to see how it works. He got a decent sheet of ice at the start, although the start area is under a roof. Once you get here, it's open, but they have swept down to curve 0 after the 3rd athlete, which was Sammy Meyer. But again, watch the sled come out of the grooves. So you have to try and load as square as you can, drive the sled forward and not sideways. But it comes out of the grooves like everybody else who's got that left-hand groove. It's just moving one way or the other. In his case, it moved left. In the case of Marcus Wyatt, it moved right. Yellow jersey of our World Cup points leader. He's also our reigning European champion. Martis Ducours with 11 consecutive European Championship victories. Now chasing win number 12. And after being stalled just shy of his 50th World Cup win a couple of seasons ago for what seemed like an eternity, now up to 58 World Cup wins. 492. There's not going to be many starting faster than that. So let's take a look at the exit out of corner 2 into 3. And then there's that little uphill rise. As I told you, you come uphill into 4, then you drop down into 5. 5 drops about 2-3 stories. That's where you start to accelerate, and that makes 6. The crossover 5 to 6 really important to set you up for the Kreisel. Again, no toe steering visible. The only scraping you hear is the chin on the ice. Oh, face buried there. Top speed down at the bottom, still from Sammy Meyer, but a 56.46 run to take the lead. That is a big run from Martins Dukurs. 2 tenths ahead of brother Thomas. So 492 the start, he was being told. Again, look at the way the body is molded to the sled. Shoulders pressed right down, and then head buried on the ice. Knows where he's going, believes, has the faith in the line. And our World Cup champion, our world champion, next up, Christopher Grodinger of Germany. Didn't race here in Winterberg last year, didn't race in the European Championships in Sigulda either. Spent time instead in Altenburg, training for the World Championships to very great effect. And of course, we go back to Altenburg in 5 weeks' time for the World Championships again. So not only will Christopher Grodinger go to defend his title, he'll go to defend it uniquely on the track in which he won it. So 5:05, 1300s behind. Kind of what you'd expect to see from him. Best European Championship results. He hasn't had a podium yet in the Europeans. 2 4th-place finishes, including the Europeans here in January 2017. Losing time all the way. 2300s back out to 2800s back. Can he stop the bleeding with a good run through the Kreisel? Only 4th best speed. My answer would be no, he can't. As so often on these tracks, the graveyard of time is very early in the run. If you've lost your speed by corner 4, you don't get it back unless your name is Sammy Meyer. 2nd best speed down through the final corner. Oh, but really steering hard to stay away from the wall. 3rd best run of the first heat so far. And don't forget, we will have 2 heats in the race, weather permitting. There's no reason why we shouldn't. Both heats will count, and it's your total time that decides your finishing. So from the run into the load. And the world champion, the 6th of our sliders, so the track down from the start to corner 0 will be swept for the next slider. Doesn't look like there is too much in the way of snow coming down, a few little flakes. 7th of 25 sliders, race 5 of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup. Men's skeleton action continues with the 2014 Olympic champion Alexander Cherkov, the Russian, now 35 years old. 18 wins and 44 podiums in World Cup racing. European champion in 2007. 485. Wow. 35-year-old Alexander Cherkov, nicknamed the Russian Rocket when he first arrived in his early 20s, still has jet-assisted takeoff, doesn't he? 7th only in last year's race here in Winterberg. He missed the 2nd race in Eagles to do some pre-Christmas training in Altenburg. Second best speed. He's in the lead still over Martins Dukurs. It's just a few hundreds, 007. And best speed, 98.1. Quicker than Sammy Meyer. Meyer's still the fastest man in the final speed trap, no longer. Cherkov is going to lead at the end of the first heat and almost rolls it across the line. That is the classic exit of the final corner in Winterberg. Not steering, just allowing the speed to carry you up the wall on the exit. If you fly across the line, there's less friction than if you crash across the line or if you steer. Great, great first run from Alexander Cherkov. He's won 1 gold medal this season, race 1 in Innsbruck. A little disappointing in Sigulda. Russia's actually really Russia's #1 test track. He was only 9th and 10th, but look at this final corner. Well, does hit the ground before he crosses the line, so there are a few hundreds there.
From Austria,
Second of our Austrian sliders is Florian Hourn, 26-year-old, son of multiple European and world champion Christian Hourn. Finished 17th in the race here in January last year, 12th in the European Championships in Sigulda at the end of the World Cup season. His best World Cup results are 3 9th places, 2 of which came in Innsbruck in December. Nice run down through corner 1 to corner 2. It's a long, slow run down to anywhere here until you get out of corner 5. It's so critical to barely even breathe here on your skeleton sled, and that crossover 5 to 6 can really cause a lot of time loss. It looks so innocuous. Very different sound from his sled. Top 6 run at the moment, challenging teammate Sammy Meyer, who is in 5th position at the bottom. 8 tenths across the line, Sammy 58 hundredths back, so there's 12 hundredths between them, 22 hundredths between them even. So Florian Hourn, top 6 at the moment. Again, you can see a little bit of snow falling. Doesn't seem to be doing too much to affect the pace. This replay out of 3, starting to climb up to corner 4. And then here's the critical crossover, 5 into 6, which gives you speed or takes it away. Late high pressure there.
Fighting against the time of the leader of Alexander Cherkov from Russia. Track is clear.
Race leader Alexander Cherkov. After our first 8 sleds, Alexander Gassner next up. Gassner lying 2nd in the World Cup standings, 1 podium this season. Silver medalist in the opening race in Sigulda. 4:99 getaway, anything sub 5 here is extremely quick. Silver medalist in last year's race on this track. 51 weeks ago. This is 45th World Cup race. Finished 5th in the European Championships in Sigulda last year. 9 hundredths behind. At the moment, he is ahead of Martins Dukurs. This is a very good run so far from Alexander Gassner. Still holding on, 9 hundredths behind. 2nd best speed. Behind Cherkov, but quicker than Dukurs. Fantastic effort from Alexander Gassner, silver medalist here last year. The winner was Sun Bin-yun, and 15 hundredths back. That is a really good run from Alexander Gassner. So Gassner, World Cup best, 2 silver medals, 2 bronze medals, has yet to claim gold in the World Cup. And his European Championship best, a 5th position finish. That was in Sigulda in last year's Europeans. But a big first heat from Alexander Gassner leaves him in 2nd position behind Alexander Cherkov, but ahead of the Dukurs brothers. 10th of 25 starters in this 5th race of the Skeleton World Cup is Vladislav Harkov, the 21-year-old from the Ukraine. Finished in 16th place in the race here last year. There's his dad and coach and mentor, Mikhail. And Vlad followed his dad originally into strength sports. His dad was a strong man. Vlad started that way as well. Been an MMA too before he discovered skeleton. World Cup best of 8th place in La Plan last season. 5:06 getaway. That's not bad at all. When you start any 0.05 of a second slower than one of the Dukurs brothers, you know you're doing a pretty decent job. He's in the green, in the red rather, he's losing time. 2100s back at the start. And that has doubled as he gets down to the Kreisel. Big, strong athlete. Carries plenty of mass on the sled, which definitely helps if there's snowy conditions. Let's see if that can help him close the gap a little on the leaders in the field. 7th at the start, he had drifted out to 8th, now back up to 7th on the splits and across the line in 7th place. Like Sammy Meyer, another youth Olympian. Competed in Lillehammer in 2016, finished in 8th in the boys' skeleton. Getting on for 5 years ago now, goodness. Head up a little bit there, just looking for the line he wanted, compared to Alexander Gassner, Alexander Cherkov, Martin Dukurs, who knew they were where they needed to be. Vlad's still learning every day, as everybody does. 10 sleds down, 15 to go. Alexander Cherkov leads from Alexander Gassner. The Dukurs brothers 3rd and 4th as Martin Dukurs chases a 12th consecutive European Championships. Daniel Romanoff in his 5th World Cup start, the young Russian sensation this season, 24 years old. Finished 5th in race 2 in Innsbruck, his World Cup best so far. Started sliding in November 2018. That was his first race officially for the Russian team. Has not competed in the European Championships, does not have a World Cup race under his belt here in Winterberg either. What he does have is lots of raw speed and potential. 2nd fastest starter. He's shifted out a fraction to 4th place. Only the 9th best speed, and that is going to hurt him. Below the Kreisel, you need that speed. Oh, and a late exit there. You saw the leg get thrown up. Down through the lower labyrinth. And across the line, he is going to be in 6th position ahead of Sammy Meyer by a 10th. That's a very good run again from this young man. I think we're going to see an awful lot of him. Not sure that he's going to be so much a star of the future as a star of the right now. This is a big season for him, breaking out into the World Cup team after just a couple of years of racing in the junior divisions. And when you see the talent that Russia's got at the top of the pile, Cherkov and Chegubov, world champion, Olympic champion, and Olympic silver medalist, and Daniel Romanoff fighting his way into the team. And he is the best placed Russian in the World Cup standings. Next up is Felix Kaisinger from Koenigsegg in Bavaria, the 23-year-old European Championship bronze medalist from last season. 16th World Cup race for him. He's got 4 podiums with 2 silvers and 2 bronzes, yet to claim his first win, like Alexander Gassner. Finished 5th here last year, and expect this to be very comfortably sub-5 start. Where are we looking? 480, 487, so the same as Daniel Romanoff. That gives us an absolutely identical start to deal with compared to Romanoff. Cherkov started 485, and he is level with Cherkov. Kaisinger, could this be the big day for Felix Kaisinger, where he finally has an epic first heat? 5 to 6, not bad, not perfect, not bad. Top 4 speed. We saw him just holding the line up there with his head at the exit of the Kreisel to get the line he wanted. A 10th back, it's a little bit loose. Down through 11, 12, 13, 1700s back, slipping out of the top 3 and across the line in 4th place. 2200s back, within a shout of the medals. He might need a little bit of help if he's going to try and win this one. Alexander Cherkov leads Alexander Gassner and Martins Dukurs, and Felix Kaisinger in 4th place. So top 4 covered by 2200s, then 1700s back from him to Thomas Dukurs in 5th. Just a slightly rocky load, tiniest of flinch toe drags there. And here, use the second pressure well. Felix looking a little unconvinced by that. Next up, Nikita Kucherov of Russia, a 25-year-old Olympic silver medalist from Pyeongchang. 1 World Cup win only, 9 podium finishes in a career so far of 44 World Cup starts, or 43 up until now, that has promised so much and yet seems slightly to have underdelivered. European silver medalist in Innsbruck in 2017. 496. And that's part of the problem at the moment. He's starting about a 10th away from the fastest. Cherkov had a nightmare here in January last year, finished only 19th. He's got to be better than that here. 6th best start, down to 8th place. Good looking line through the Kreisel, but where is the speed? 7th best velocity. Not going to do him many favours, is it? 7th at the moment is teammate Daniel Romanoff. So this is to avoid being the last of the 3 Russians, and he is the last of the 3 Russians. 56.86 for Nikita Kucherov, leaves him tied with Sammy Meyer, a 10th behind young teammate Daniel Romanoff. And he started a 10th behind Romanoff, 900s behind Romanoff at the start. That means he did outdrive his younger teammate. If you give away a 10th at the start, even in skeleton, you should be about a 1/4 of a second behind at the bottom, and he wasn't. Good line through the Kreisel.
Had some injury problems in the last years.
very likely to mean that Mattia Gaspari will not make the second heat. And let's see what he can produce out of corner 3. The danger's not really there if you make a mistake in the first couple of corners. Physically, it just murders your time. You still pick up speed, and you'll still be going very nearly as fast at the bottom of the track as you would otherwise have been doing. But very nearly doesn't cut it. Horror story for Mattia Gaspari. All big height there, and the problem with not having quite the speed you're used to is the line is different, the track is different, the drive you want, you can't hold the line necessarily. Comes across the line, 13th place ahead of Mihai Pacquiao at 57.95. And that very likely means that he is going to struggle to get a second heat. He could be in, but watch the replay now. I think it's his right foot. Did it just clip the sled in the penultimate step just as he was starting to load? Yeah, there you go. Just caught the sled. Now, of course, recovering from initially an Achilles injury, a series of leg injuries over the last 3 years. That's the last thing he could do with. Don't need to be twisting ankles or pulling more muscles. Now Mattia. From Switzerland, 31-year-old engineer Ronald Orderset. World Cup best, 10th place in Innsbruck, the last race before Christmas. His first ever World Cup top 10, a huge result for Ronnie. Finished in 12th in Europeans in Samaritz in 2016, his best European Championship result. And he needs to channel some of that Innsbruck speed here. Last year, only 25th place in the race in Winterberg. 5 flat, pretty decent getaway. So 8th best start. It's a little nudged away out of corner 2. Clean out of 4. Dropping down, corkscrewing out of corner 5. With the big steer in the middle of 5. Watch the Kreisel, pretty decent line there. Straight out down the middle of the tubes. Big corner 9. Again, building speed fast now, 10 and 11, huge left-hander. And then 12, 13 coming flying at you. Before you know it, you're into 14 and across the line. Corner 14 must be one of the longest in the business, at least it must feel like it, because you're desperate to preserve your speed to the line. Ronnie off the 8th best speed, 13th, ahead of Mattia Gaspari and Mihai Pacquiao. You see the paint being scraped away from the carbon helmet. That's what happens when we say they've got their chin on the ice. It's actually the face that is pressed right down, so the chin piece gets bounced off the ice, because this ice is not smooth as glass. It's built up, shaped and scraped. It does have tiny little ripples all the way down it. When you get your chin on the ice, you definitely feel the vibrations. So 13th place for Ronnie Orderset at the moment. Next up, Craig Thompson. Expect fireworks at the start from the British slider. 28-year-old former soccer player. World Cup best 2 6 places, including race 1 in Innsbruck. His only European Championship appearance was last year in Sigulda when he finished 16th. He too had a real nightmare here last year and almost missed the load there as well. Hand went straight by the saddle. Fortunately, he was already diving onto the sled, and it looks like it may not have cost him too much time, but in his head, the language will not have been polite. 700s back. Huge start this young man has. Only 1200s back. He's hanging on really well. After that near disaster at the start, he'll be absolutely fuming, but he shouldn't be. Only 10th best speed, but it's still a top 5, top 6 run potentially. Blackrock sled maybe not giving him the best speed at the bottom of the track. Only 10th best in the final corner. 6th at the line, 6th at the line. So he is tied with Christopher Grodinger. We have 2 ties in the top 10. We've got a tie for 9th as well. Now watch here as he crosses over, misses the saddle, but actually, got away with that, didn't he? Very fortunate there that the sled didn't pop out of the grooves, and he managed to keep his cool all the way down the track. Imagine the turmoil inside the helmet.
Hi, Bethan, love you. Hi, Dad, love you too.
Waving to the camera, Thompson in the 6th place.
Sammy Kaser of Switzerland is our 17th of 25 sliders, race 5 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup. The 22-year-old in his first World Cup season. He's a carpenter by trade. This is World Cup start number 5. First ever European Championships as well for Kaser. So let's see what he can produce here in Winterberg. He's got relatively limited experience here. A big dink up the wall there in the 0 curve. Not the best way to drive round it. Getting bumped up. Kind of bend. Really takes speed out of the sled. 16th best start. Needs to have a couple of sleds behind him at this stage to really stand a good chance of getting into the second heat. Nice looking run through the Kreisel. 14th best speed, so he is ahead of Romania's Mihai Pacquiao. Trying to close in on Mattia Gaspari of Italy for 15th place. Looks like he may be ahead of Gaspari across the line in 15th. He is ahead of Mattia Gaspari and Mihai Pacquiao. So he has 2 sleds behind him, and that is a handy little cushion. 5 of our first heat sliders will not get a second run. He might just have done enough there.
And now, welcome back in the circuit. The guys from Canada.
Well, it wasn't the most comfortable of loads, was it? Over-rotated. But got it done and got it down. And again, that bump off corner 0, that little kink there on the run down to curve 1, which was built in because the big new start building couldn't be any further to the slider's left because there's a hillside there. And so there was a new corner before corner 1 when the new start area was built. Great Britain's Ben Fulker has been working hard on the face fungus. Now he's a 24-year-old Royal Air Force flight ops technician. And in the Air Force, you're allowed a moustache. You are not allowed a full set, so he's clearly not on duty. Former kickboxer and RAF skeleton slider. 5'11". Should be a top 10 starter, and that is the 14th best start we've seen here. Ben making only his 2nd World Cup start. Raced in Sigulda before Christmas. He's 12th place there, and he's currently holding on to 14th position, but just having a little meander. 5 to 6, only 16th best speed. Well, this is right around Sammy Kaser, Mattia Gaspari territory. He's ahead of Kaser at the moment and ahead of Ronnie of Switzerland. Still in 14th place on the splits. 12th best speed at the bottom. That will help him hang on to that 14th place. Top 14 at the line, and that will see him through into the second heat. He's only had 2 years of sliding, last year in Europa Cup.
place currently.
2 years of sliding for British skeleton, that is. Competed in the inter-services for the RAF. You would think he's a member of the senior service, the Royal Navy, with the full set coming along nicely. Have to get the razor out before he gets a uniform back on again. Like my dad, who was a pilot, when you're on holiday and you're not on duty, you take the opportunity to not shave and grow a beard. And Ben is going full-on winter.
So hopefully this will be a good round for Kevin Boyle from Canada.
So 18 sleds down, and so far, athletes we have seen this season. For the first time, though, we have athletes now from North America. So this is Canada's Kevin Boyle, 26-year-old, making his 32nd World Cup start. 21st here, just missed the cut in Winterberg last year. And all these Canadian athletes have been in the start house in Calgary and on ice in Whistler. And desperately hoping that something would allow them to come over to Europe for the second half of the season. Well, they have made it over. His last actual race, apart from Canadian selections, was the World Championships in Altenburg. It's been a while since we saw Kevin. 14th here a couple of years ago. That's his best Winterberg result. He is in 14th place at the moment off a 16th best start. And he is just rubbing the wall everywhere. 18th best speed. 15th, 16th between the Swiss at the bottom, maybe. Needs a couple behind him to make the second heat and rolls across the finish line. 57.54 for Kevin Boyle. Well, he is back racing in the World Cup. I think we can safely say that was definitely a more hits than Elvis run. If there was a wall on the way down that he didn't hit, I want to see it. Welcome back, Kevin. Welcome back to Bobsleigh Canada Skeleton. Welcome back as well to the US Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation. Great to have our North American athletes back with us. And again, look, in the Kreisel, allows the pressure waves to push him up and down. And rolls out of the final corner. Next up, making a World Cup debut, 31-year-old, beg your pardon, Austin McCrary from Colleyville, Texas. So the US slider wins and medals in North America's Cup races. He has raced in the ICC and Europa Cup. He has done one Europa Cup race here in Winterberg, though, so this is a tough place to make your debut. Let's see what he can produce. 5:39 getaway. 2 days of training only because of the weather. Potentially 3 runs per day. And Austin would have needed all of those to dial himself back into Winterberg. Now he is racing in the World Cup because the man who won the US team trials, John Daly, is not eligible. Hasn't done 5 races on 3 tracks in 2 seasons since he retired most recently. And so Austin takes his World Cup spot as John Daly is on the ICC, where Austin was nominated for after team trials. So great to see Austin McCrary making a World Cup debut. 20th at the start, he's driving himself firmly into the race. That's a very good debut run. 16th at the bottom. Was that Caleb Smith there in the mask? I think it was. And Coach Tuffy Latour with the team on tour here as well. Yeah. Nice looking bit of helmet art as well. And a first ever televised race for US debutant Austin McCrary. Welcome to the World Cup. 5.6 crossover. Not as much of a challenge for him as it has been for some others. Gonna have to go and find a mask now before he takes his helmet off. So we have 20 sleds down, 5 still to go. Alexander Cherkov leading from Alexander Gassner and Martins Dukurs. The race is full for the remaining 5 sleds in our field. It is go fast or go home. Next up, another debutant, 33-year-old Canadian Mark Lynch. Like a true Canadian, he's lived everywhere, born in Ottawa, family currently in Ontario. His hometown given us St. John's, Newfoundland. Born in Ottawa, so not a native newfie. Former hockey, rugby and taekwondo player. With the World Championships in Whistler in 2019. So we saw him compete there, but this is his first ever World Cup race. Raced here in Winterberg in the ICC, the Intercontinental Cup in the last 2 seasons. And he first encountered skeleton when he moved to Calgary and discovered the track there, got involved and applied to BCS, was accepted into their program. And off the 20th start, he is in 15th place, so he's right around where we just saw Austin McCrary of the USA, ahead of Kevin Boyer of Canada. He is the top Canadian. He is ahead of Kevin Boyer. Now that is the way you make your debut. What a great start to a World Cup campaign for Mark Lynch of Canada. Well, let's not worry about where he is in terms of Alexander Cherkov. First step is to beat your teammate, and he has done that. Mark Lynch, 15th, Kevin Boyer, 16th. 1200s ahead of his teammate. Look at the head steering down, hold it down, hold it down. Sled still came up a little bit. Late exit means a hard hit on the next take on. But a good run in the first World Cup start for Mark Lynch. 87th World Cup start for this man, 37-year-old Spaniard Ander Mirambel. Struggled with injuries for the last couple of seasons. He's only done 1 World Cup race this year. He raced here in November in Europa Cup. And in fact, he made his World Cup debut here in November 2008. 5:35 getaway for Ander Mirambel of Spain. He's been really busy recruiting, training, motivating, finding funding for a whole new group of Spanish skeleton athletes. He wants others to follow his footsteps in the sand, I suppose. 8th best speed. That's great speed in the Kreisel. 21st start, he's up to 19th place. So he is pushing himself into the race at the moment. Mihai Pacquiao of Romania is out. In 20th place is Mattia Gaspari of Italy. And right now, Gaspari, a 5th best speed from Ander Mirambel at the bottom. The Spaniard absolutely flying on his Bromley sled. 15th place off the 21st best start. So I'm afraid no second heat for Mattia Gaspari. Vamos! Ander Mirambel, what a great run. Yes. Really struggled to put a consistent campaign together because of surgery and injury, most recently with his shoulder. But now, that's a great second heat. Didn't have speed at the start, but boy, he found it on the way down the run. Well, his European Championship best, a 9th place finish here back in 2017 in the Europeans. And he's 15th at the moment. However, there are no non-Europeans in front of him. Austin Florian of the USA, get after it, says his coach, 26 years old. Austin, loving the new US suits. There's Caleb Smith in the background, himself a former slider. Austin made the cut last year, finished in 18th place. Let's see what he can do. His 16th World Cup race is his first this season. He's had 2 World Cup races here, 19th 2 years ago, 18th last season. Should make the race. Again, his last race of any note was the World Championships. US selection trials in Lake Placid and Salt Lake City notwithstanding. Nice looking flowing run from Austin Florian. 9th fastest start gives him a real shot. Not sure the setup is helping him too much today. Look at the speed, only 18th. He's going to be hanging around with Adam Mirambel, Mark Lynch, Kevin Boyer. The North Americans are, for best of them now, in 14th place. So 57.32. And welcome back again to Austin Florian. 5 flat start, 9th best getaway. It's a good way to start your day. But again, gets pushed away there. And all of those little nudges offline, bump the sled out of the way, means you have to steer a bit more further back. Again, slightly late exit there, late height. But Austin Florian, good first run, just to blow the cobwebs away. 14th place in the first heat. And that means that Sammy Kaser is out of the race. We now have a tie for 19th. Ronald Orderset and Austin McCrary with 2 sliders remaining. So Orderset and McCrary should get a second heat. This is Vladislav Polivak, 19-year-old representing Poland, though he has also slid for Ukraine. 5th season on ice for Vladislav, and he is here as a European Championship competitor. Oh, and a disaster as he loads. The sled pops out of the groove. And a 5:48 getaway, but the speed is long gone. We saw him in February last year in Sigulda in Latvia in the European Championships there. So not yet, Poland do not yet have a World Cup spot for him. Again, the nerves of trying to put in a really big push to get into the second heat may well have been his undoing at the start. 24th place of 24 sleds so far. It's going to be a heartbroken Vladislav Polivak at the bottom of the mountain. It was always going to be tough in a big field like this to make the second heat. He did finish in 19th place in the European Championships last year. And he may just about be there again. We got 2 Canadian and 2 US sliders in the field of 25. So he needs to beat Rasmus Johansson, the final slider. But here, watch the load, the transition. Now, as we saw with Craig Thompson, his right hand moving across misses the saddle, but Thompson's hand went straight off and he ended up on the sled almost square. Here, I'm afraid, Vladislav Polivak has the worst of all potential outcomes. His hand didn't quite meet the sled, but didn't pass it by, and he ended up completely at 6s and 7s. Well, good to see him back on ice. Next up, young Rasmus Johansson, 18 years old, youngest man in the field, a decathlete in the summer, former handball player. His dad, Tom, raced bobsleigh for Denmark in 98 to 2006, so that's how Rasmus got involved. He's raced on 5 tracks, Winterberg one of them. He's been here in the Europa Cup and in the Junior Worlds. And just 18 years old, young Rasmus Johansson representing Denmark. Great to see smaller nations, smaller sliding nations at least, competing here in the European Championships again. Not a World Cup spot available for the Dane yet. We'll have to see how that transpires. 21st at the start. He is in the race at the moment in 20th place. And across the line, he's 19th. He is ahead of Ronald Ardauf and Austin McCrary. He gets a second heat. And that is a fantastic run from Rasmus Johansson, the 18-year-old rookie. I know his dad will be very, very pleased indeed with that. So we will have 21 sleds in our top 20 because, as you heard Vili, the track announcer, saying there is a tie for 20th. Well, the sled popped the groove and went back in. Hey, if you're going to have a stroke of luck, have it in the first 5 seconds on TV of your young career. Just a big bump there in the middle of 11, but Rasmus, congratulations. Congratulations to Mum, Dad, and the family. At the top of the pile, at the end of our first of 2 heats, is Alexander Cherkov, the Russian Rocket, the European champion back in 2007. Can he do it again 14 years later? He leads Alexander Gassner with a man chasing a 12th consecutive European Championship gold in 3rd place. Here is how they lie. 2200 still cover the top 4. That's where your medals will come from. Behind, we start with the ties. Craig Thompson and Christopher Grote here, tied for 6th place. Sammy Meyer and Nikita Kucherov tied for 9th place. Tiny gaps all the way down the field. And then our top 20 filled by Ronald Ardauf and Austin McCrary, who are tied for 20th place. They will both go in the 2nd and final heat. Missing the cut, Sammy Kaser, Mattia Gaspari, Mihai Pacquiao and Vladislav Polivac. Join them and me trackside for the 2nd and deciding heat. We'll be back at 11:45. That is 10:45 GMT, and that is in 45 minutes from now. For me, Martin Hafer, and for the IBSF TV crew here in Winterberg, thank you. We'll see you in 45 minutes to find who our new European champion will be.